Have you ever jumped to a conclusion and then later found out that you were completely wrong in your assumptions about the situation? So I was reminded of this morning. I was reading in Joshua chapter 22, and you had the Israelites who were on the west side of the Jordan, and these guys were completely like gearing up, ready for battle. They're going to go slaughter all of the Israelites on the east side of the Jordan, because they got word that these guys over here were creating an altar, and God's law expressly prohibits creating another altar, right? You're supposed to only have one altar, and the place where he chose for his name to be, which was Jerusalem. And so at this point, they were just like, all right, man, you guys are violating God's commands and you're gonna have to go. Well, they gear up and head over, and then luckily they decide to go ahead and just like get a little bit more information. I don't know if the heads of the tribes ran out to be like, whoa, what are y'all doing? Or whatever it was, but they're like, no, we were not building this altar so that we could sacrifice on it, because that would be unlawful. What we were doing was we were creating this altar so that we could remember that and show our children that we are part of you guys over there where the real altar is. That's kind of the condensed version of the story. You can read it, like I said, in Joshua chapter 22. But this made me think about all the times in my life where I've jumped to conclusions and I have mistakenly accused people of things that were kind of true, but also that's not the full story. So I think about times like with my children where, one kid will run up, Dad, so-and-so did such and such a thing to me or whatever. And it's like, I'll immediately come down, oh, what are you doing? Why are jump into dad conclusions or whatever. But then later find out, I didn't get the full story. You weren't quite telling me the whole truth. A little bit of lying, with omission, through omission. I've also had a situation, this is super embarrassing, but where I had another family member, extended family member who, man, I heard one thing that was like super offensive, and I called him up and just ripped him a new one. I mean, just absolutely in an ungodly way, just let him have it. Later to find out that I was wrong. I was operating on just a very small amount of information, and if I just had the opposite side of the information, or just a little more info, then everything would have been fine. But I chose to overreact on a small amount of info. This, and by the way, we now look back and laugh at the situation. Thankfully, it didn't ruin things. The other party was a bigger man than I. But what it reminds me of also is just like the current political climate and just everyday life. We end up in situations where, we have like the Maryland man. This is a great example, right? The media is going to run with this narrative. The left side of the aisle is going to run with this narrative of this poor Maryland man is being deported, and Trump is sending this Maryland man, to this prison in a foreign country. Well, it turns out he's from that foreign country. Turns out he is a pretty bad guy and has been charged by multiple courts as being part of Trinidad and Aragua, and he has, been all these different things, right? He's not a model citizen, and he has no rights that they are claiming that he should have. And then you've got all these people who got to get rid of Trump, the dictator, whatever it is, right? And this is not me being right or pro-Trump or wrong. It's the most recent thing that I can think of where we've got two opposing factions, and one side is clearly overreacting without the actual information. And to be clear, if Trump was deporting citizens, I would absolutely be livid and be calling for, something to change. But that's not the case here. Okay, so just getting that out of the way. Anyway, I was just thinking about this today. I'd encourage you, as I'm thinking about it in my own life, that as I'm going through the week, to make sure that I'm actually not overreacting, getting the full story. A lot of people would say, well, as a Christian, you're not even supposed to judge at all. Well, that's a completely different situation and not the case. We are called to judge between right and wrong, and we can do that. So, but if we are judging without the full story, then it can be a problem. And that can cause strife in our families. It can cause division between friends. It can cause civil war between nations, or not civil war between nations, civil war in a nation or war between nations. So that is something we all need to be aware of. Anyway, I could go on, but I think you get the point. I just encourage you guys to think about that throughout the week, and just make sure you're getting both sides of the story. Don't overreact. Make sure we're working inside, and also make sure we're working inside our circle of influence and our circle of concern. And don't get so enraged about something that has nothing to do with you, that you can't affect anyway. And let's make sure that we're just, doing what we can, building our families the way we can right now, taking care of our gardens and our property and our animals and whatever it is. So that's my encouragement. Hope you guys have a great day. I'm Eric with East Texas Homestead, encouraging you to live faithfully and to prepare thoroughly for good times or bad. I'll see you on the next one.